Alright guys, what is going on everybody? It's Roku back with some more League of Legends content, and today we have another League of Legends guide video. Now, this video is a bit different than our other guide videos because it's not really like a Darius specific guide video. It's a League of Legends video. Like it applies to everyone, all players, all champions, just everything. So like you should be benefiting from this no matter who you are, right? What this video is going to be explaining is the settings that everybody should be using in League of Legends to get like the most out of their gameplay, right? To make things as efficient as possible. These are the settings that all the pro players, all the high elo streamers, one tricks that everybody uses, and it's what people who know what they're doing, who want to abuse the game to the most maximum efficiency, is what these guys use, right? So yeah, remember to like, comment, and subscribe because the support keeps my channel going and it encourages me to make more videos. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into the video. I'm going to start with the more simpler settings and then we'll go right into the hotkeys at the end, which is the most complicated part of this whole guide, right? First off, video. This is like the simplest portion of this, but for the most part, you want to go for a video setting that gives you a very nice high frame rate, right? I know some of you might have like very like low end systems like laptops or whatever, like MacBooks. So you want to just go to very low and have your resolution drop to like whatever, like just something really low, because honestly, having high frames in League is vital to actually being able to play the game, right? If you have your settings on like high or something and you're playing like on 60, 90 frames while you're in lane, like that's fine and all. But the second you get into like a busy team fight, you're gonna drop frames so much that you're not gonna be able to tell what is going on. And with how the game is like, where the game is headed, where every single skin adds like 50 new effects to the game, it's like having bad frames is the last thing we want in the current state of League of Legends. We want to be like on top of our game. We want to get all the information as much as possible. So have a lower setting, right? I recommend the setting low, the preset, because the very low settings, it's like it gives you high frames, but it's horrible looking, and everything higher is kind of like it kind of messes up the frames, right? So just have things at low. You can maybe turn up your FX quality, but just keep it at low. Keep it simple, and yeah. Our next setting is our sound settings. Now, most of these like don't really matter. Like I have the music turned off. If you like the music, you can have that turned on. The rest of these things are just preference, right? But there are two things that are very, very important, right? Voice volume and sound effects volume. Now, when I press Q, Darius has his own specific animation and his own specific sound, right? If you listen closely, his Q has its own specifically designed sound. This is the case for every single ability and for every single passive, every single effect. Everything in the game has its own specifically designed distinguishable sound effect. People tend to like react to audio faster than they react to visuals, meaning that you hear faster than you see, I guess is a way to put it, right? So let's say that Camille uses Q, and instead of trying to visually react to that, if you have your sound effect high, then you can like, just react to it by your ears and then react off of that, right? And this is very, very useful because in League, when you're trying to do something that's like reaction based, like third Riven Q, Camille hook shot, and you're trying to cancel these kinds of abilities, then it's a very, very good idea to have the sound effects volume higher than everything else, right? I personally like to listen to the League of Legends champions talk, so I have my voice volume very high, but this is mostly just preference. Just have it higher than the rest, but have sound effects definitely higher than everything else, right? Don't have it so high that your ears bleed, but have it so that like when compared to everything else, the sound effects are very, very distinguishable, right? The next category that we're going to take a look at is the interface section. Now, this section is also preference heavy, but I'll guide you through everything and what I recommend anyway. So the first thing is our HUD scale, and this is basically just how big everything is, the minimap, etc. And when you're trying to train certain skills like looking at the minimap, it might be a good idea to have the minimap be bigger than usual, right? Let's say you're practicing looking at the map while CSing, then have the minimap be bigger than usual so that you can like keep a better eye on it, right? But be sure to put it back down to like a smaller size once you get good at keeping an eye on the minimap, because like this much space, right? This much space is ridiculous, right? You need to move your like screen more if you want to see what's behind that. So yeah, just have it bigger if you want to train, but normally, like once you get good at it, have it be small, right? The next setting that I would recommend is having this enabled, right? What is this? Notice how some abilities, or all abilities rather, have that press shift to show more info thing at the bottom right. You hold that down, and it gives you like all the things that you need to know, like about the ability, right? What they do, what the scalings are, how the damage is calculated, and how each level up impacts the ability, right? Now, it's kind of like a bother to press shift to get all of these, because you have to take your fingers off of your ability keys, right? And that can leave you vulnerable. So the good idea is to have this on so that you have the information at like just your mouse tip at all points. The next thing I can recommend is the spell costs, right? Now, notice how, like, by default, there are no spell costs on any of these abilities, right? So, if you are on 200 mana, and a person is in the perfect position for an all-in, then you're gonna mess up, because, like, you don't have enough mana for your whole kit. And if you had this on, then you will be able to tell that by yourself, right? As you can see, the mana costs of all the abilities are shown in the top right corner of the ability icon, and you can use these to calculate, like, okay, I have 200 mana, can I take this all in? No, because I can't cast all my abilities. Or if I'm going to take this all in, I need to make sure that I don't use my E, because the mana on it would mean that I don't have enough mana for my ultimate, right? It basically helps you plan out your all-ins way, way better. The next thing that I would recommend is to just turn off all of chat. There are many, many reasons why chat is bad in the game, and I won't really go into it too much, but basically, you need to focus on the game and not what some random person is typing, right? You don't need to care about what anybody else says for the most part. So keep both of these turned off, and like, don't even tell me that, oh, what if there's some highly coordinated play we're doing it? Like, be honest, how often does that happen, right? Like one game in like 50, basically. And most of the time, the coordination just doesn't work at all, because the players calling the shots are not the best more often than not. So just turn it off, and everything can be communicated through pings anyway, so you don't really need these chat. Make sure you have the timestamps on so that when you ping certain things, you can see when they're pinged, right? Let's say that the enemy flashed, right? And you go there and you ping their flash. Because I'm on our ally team, the flash counter is directly written here, but for the enemy, you won't have the flash counter. It's just going to be like, Riven flash. Now, this is very, very useful because we see the timestamp here, right? We all know that the flash's cooldown is 300 seconds, which translates to 6 minutes. So Darius flash at 1734 plus 6 minutes is 2334. So Darius F is going to be up 2334, right? Or you can do top F, right? You know how people sometimes type these? And like, you can just keep that for yourself. But yeah, right? That's how you that's how you keep track of summoner spells, and you keep them in your head so that you can basically know who has flash and who doesn't have flash, so that you can, if the enemy AD carry has flash, then maybe it's not a good idea to go for these kinds of risky plays, right? The last thing I want to talk about in this section is the combat text. Combat text is basically like these numbers, right? The damage number from that, the mana cost, minus 40. All of this is very, very useful, but the most useful one is the experience one. Notice how when a minion dies, there's going to be like plus a certain amount of XP over my character, right? This is very, very useful, because normally, without this setting, you have to just keep your eye on this purple bar. And this purple bar is so arbitrary and just like hard to keep a track of that like you're better off using these numbers. And what these numbers are really good for is knowing whether you are in XP range or not. Let's say you're being zoned off by a ranged top laner, you're going to need to have this option enabled so that you can make sure that you're within XP range of minions, right? So yeah, it's very, very useful for that case. Next is the game settings. The mouse settings are more so preference, so we don't need to get into any of these, but these settings are all very, very important, right? For now, just like, I think it's very, very obvious, but never have this enabled. Always disable this. What it basically does is when you're standing next to a champion, it automatically starts attacking them, right? Without even me having to input any command. And this is bad because you want to make sure that you yourself input every single possible command. So, right, like you want to just like input your commands, make mini sort of movements and adjustments. You don't want to just like sit there and have your character play the game for you, right? Because that just leads to you getting outplayed. So yeah, have that turned off. Movement prediction basically makes you feel like you're playing on 0 ping, right? Now, I dislike this setting because though it makes it like feel that your character is more responsive to your movements, it does not display what's actually on the screen at all, right? There is a delay because of ping, right? But at least you know that your character is actually here in relation to everybody else on the match, whereas this doesn't really help that out. So this is not really good for Darius. Maybe if we're playing more mechanically intensive champs, it might feel smoother, like, Katarina or something, but not Darius, right? These two things I'm going to get into once we get into them on the hotkeys, so we can just forget about them for now, right? Now, let's get into our hotkeys, right? This is the complicated part of these settings, so try to pay a bit more attention. And like this is probably the part of the video that everybody is looking for, right? So you want to have quick cast for everything, right? Now, what is quick cast, right? There are 3 types of casts in this game, and I'm going to display them with my E, right? First, there is like the normal cast. Normal cast is when you press your E, and then you have this sort of overlay, right? And to cast a spell, you have to click again, right? Let me have the cooldowns. So you press the ability, and then you have to click again, right? This is the one that new players like to use because it's better for new players, but it's also the slowest option, and it's the one that I recommend the least. So try not, don't use this at all, basically, right? It's very, very bad, right? Because in the time it takes for you to just, E and click, you're basically giving the enemy like 50 milliseconds to react, which is not a good amount of time to give someone. The next thing is quick cast with indicator. What is quick cast with indicator? Quick cast with indicator is faster than just normal cast, right? That was normal cast. This is quick cast with indicator. Quick cast with indicator is better than normal cast. What it basically is, when you press the button, it shows you where the ability is going to go, and when you release it, it does the ability, right? So it's E, and then it's kind of good for like these kinds of faster plays, but it's still slower than the normal quick cast, right? This is kind of more useful for skill shot players or players with a lot of skill shots, because when you want to kind of aim things, it might be useful to have this thing on, but when you play a reaction-based champ like Darius, you do not want this at all because it is a handicap. The best thing you can do for the abilities is quick cast. Quick cast is just, you press the button, the ability goes off, right? You don't have to wait for anything, you have to target anything, just press the button and it goes off. What this is great for is that you don't really need to care about whether you need to think about whether you target it or not. It's basically getting the range of your characters in your muscle memory, right? It's a very big and important part of actually learning champion. Let's say you go and you miss at this level every time, right? Then your body will automatically adjust, and then you will pull closer, right? And after getting a lot of practice, after playing a lot of games, with quick cast only, the other casts don't work for this, right? Because with other casts, you're looking at the screen, whereas this cast, you know what you're going to do before you do it, right? So with this cast, your body's going to react, and before you know it, you're going to be used to Darius's E range, like lightning quick, right? So I recommend having quick cast on everything. Now, sometimes you have to aim certain things, right? So for that, we have these sorts of advanced settings where you can kind of set specific things to specific types of casts for specific abilities, right? So let's say that I have quick cast on my R, right? So normally when I press R, I can just, ult someone. But let's say I pull 2 people in, right? I don't want to get it mixed up. So, if I can kind of, it's kind of hard to click when they're bigger champions. So I don't want to just press R and miss it, right? So to more securely aim your R, for example, I can activate the quick cast with indicator, pick my target, specific, like precisely, and then go for it, right? What is this? As you can see here, I binded my quick cast with indicator for spell 4, your ultimate, to shift R. This is basically what it does, is it did that quick cast with indicator thing that I told you, right? Where it's like holding and then letting go. But to access that casting of the ability, I have to hold shift and press the ability, right? This is just me pressing E. This is me holding shift and pressing E. So when you're in situations where you have to precisely aim your ultimate between multiple targets, then having shift R is very useful, right? So have everything on quick cast. So if you're playing against one person, just have R on quick cast, and you can have your, like, you know, emergency, like precise, like abilities on like shift cast, right? I mean, like on quick cast with indicator, right? You can also put this to whatever button you're comfortable with, like, you know, maybe Alt or Control or whatever, just whatever you're comfortable with. But yeah, having this is kind of important because it helps in specific situations, right? The next thing is the level up spell, and this is basically just like, you know, let's say I leveled up. Instead of just going down here and pressing level up, you can hold Control and just press the ability you want to level up. So Control E, and you just leveled it up. This is very, very useful because let's say you just killed someone, right? And like, let me just get one more level. Yeah. Let's say you killed someone and you got your ult reset back and you went to level 11, but now you have to ult someone else. What you can do is R, and the middle of the R, level it up so that the damage goes through. By the way, when you level up the ability, in the middle of the channel, the higher level of the ability will be like, you know, it will do higher damage according to the next level of the ability, right? And this is a very, very useful trick because, as you can notice, on a lot of abilities, the mana cost goes up. So what you can do is like have the, like, don't level up yet, right? Have the, like, you know, Q normally, like just cast it normally, and then level up in the middle of it so you can spare some mana, right? Because when you level up in the middle of it, it's going to do the damage of the next level, whereas costing the mana of the previous level, right? And this is a very, very important trick for mages, right? If you're a mage player, like, note this down because this is going to be very, very important for you because conserve your mana as a mage player is very, very important, right? And like I said, you can do it with R. Let's say R. And you can do it in the middle, and it's gonna... I didn't do it quite well, but... Oh, wait, I did. Yeah, I did it correctly. Never mind. It's just that I had no items, so my damage was so low. But yeah, right. As you can see, I casted R, I leveled up in front, and it did the 200 damage, right? So yeah. Here is the next big thing. Target champions only. What is target champions only? Target champions only is like, it's a mode that when you enable it, your cursor goes like this, right? And as long as your cursor is like this, you can't target minions at all, right? Look, I'm trying to like right click these minions, and I can't target them at all. Same for jungle camps, right? I can't hit this guy. Why is this useful? Let's say you're fighting in the middle of a busy minion wave, and your enemy is here, right? You can kind of misclick and just hit the minion or something, but if you want to avoid that, just toggle this on or hold it, and then now, no matter what you do, you're going to always hit the enemy champion. So it's a very, very useful way of making sure you don't mess up and hit the minion, right? I personally, and this relates to this game settings, right? Treat target champions only as a toggle. What does this mean? When you have this off, the bind that you have for target champions only, I have C, right? The bind that you have for that is going to work like you have to hold it and then do your abilities, right? It only works after you're holding it. This, for me, is not very good because it basically occupies one of your fingers, right? It basically keeps one of your fingers busy at all times. So instead of just doing that, I like to keep my fingers busy by having this enabled, right? So you don't have to hold it. You just press it once, and it just, like, you know, it just keeps it without having to hold it, and then you can do whatever you want. And after the fight is done, you can just switch it back, good as new, right? And if you watch some of my streams when I go for my all-ins, you can kind of notice that I turn these on before every single serious fight so that I don't mess things up. Anyway, let's go for the next things, I don't think the F keys are here. Yeah. The items kind of work the same. These are just like the items, right? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And it's kind of these items working like abilities, right? So you can do all the quick cast with indicator, everything for all of your items as well, right? So maybe you have some important stride breaker dash to land, then you can also do it like quick cast with indicator for it on top of the normal quick cast. But in my personal experience, this is very, very, a rare case because, the items are so massive that it's like impossible to miss them unless you completely overshoot it, right? So I don't think this is that important, but if you want to have some sort of specific playstyle, you can go in there and just customize it to your needs, just like how we customize our abilities, right? Now, player movement. The specific thing that we need here is the stop position and the attack move. And like also we need the move click because this is like the whole attacking thing. But the two advanced sort of settings we're looking for is like attack move only, player attack move click, and stop position, right? What is stop position? Stop position is basically when you press S and champion just stops, right? This is very good for, like, it can also be used to stop your auto attacks, right? So this is very good, like for sometimes dodging people, for fooling people. If you're a Wukong player, you've like learned this by heart of just pressing S and pretending you're not there so that people think it's your clone. But yeah, right? This is very good for like tricking people, or it's also good for like, let's say a person is waiting for you to auto attack them to do counter strike or something, like on Jax. So you do auto and you just cancel it so you bait the counter strike for free, right? The other thing that's actually more important is attack move only. Now look, I have bound to my space where when I press spacebar, like Darius will go towards that area and auto attack whatever is like in range, right? Now, why is this button useful when you can just click on people? Sometimes you're going to be going into areas where you won't have vision, right? Let's just have an enemy dummy in this bush, right? Let's say your enemy goes into a bush, right? And like sometimes you get outplayed with vision. How do you make sure that you're not like destroyed by vision? You do this attack move only, right? I have a bound to my spacebar, but you can bind it to anything and you press it in there, right? And that way you don't have to actually click on anything. Darius will automatically attack anything that's in sight. So this is very useful. Let's say you're walking from your jungler and you're walking through Try and it's like Seth or Jax or someone that can cheese you. You press space here and Darius will automatically start fighting the second they're fighting you. So they actually don't have an advantage in terms of hitting you first, right? The thing with, where was it? The attack move on cursor is that is the priority of the attack move basically, right? Now, attack move on cursor enabled makes it so that your champion is going to attack whoever is closer to the cursor, right? So if this guy's closer, he's going to attack him. But if this guy's closer, he's going to attack him, right? Having this disabled makes it so that the character you have only prioritizes the closest champion to them, right? No matter where I press, right? Darius is going to attack the closest guy to him. I think you can already guess that having this enabled is better because it gives you way more control and it makes it way better to just fight people, right? The only case where I would suggest against having this enabled is if you're playing like an AD carry, like Twitch or something, right? And trying to do some sick space glider thing. So you want to just have this sort of, you don't want to just break your fingers by going like that. So you can just right click space, and just, kite like that basically, right? And that makes kiting way, way easier, right? So yeah. Camera control. So we had a little bit of a mistake there where I let the minions basically destroy the enemy base, but yeah, let's just get right back to where we were. Camera control, right? Now, having a center camera on champion key is excellent. Now, I know that most of you have the camera lock enabled, so you always play like this. And this is bad because this camera setting kind of forces you to just see what's on around your champion. And there's so much more information than just what's around your champion. Let's say you're heading for a team fight right here and you're planning on what you're doing. if you're stuck like this, you can't actually see who's fighting, what they're doing, and can't actually plan anything, right? So you're just basically heading into a fight, like, just without knowing what you're doing, right? It's really, really bad tunnel vision, right? You do not want this, right? You want to play with your camera not locked, right? Locked camera is bad, right? Even if you're using this, get used to like a non-locked camera, right? Move your camera with your mouse, right? This is especially easy to do for some of you who have played RTS games in the past, right? Say like Age of Empires, StarCraft, these kinds of games where you're already used to moving the screen with your mouse, right? For these kinds of players, this will come as second nature. For the other kinds of players who are not really used to that, get used to it because it's how the game is meant to be played. Now, this button, as you can see, sometimes I have the camera just centered on Darius, right? For the times where I'm looking at something, but I don't want to go all the way back to Darius. I just press a button and it gets to Darius, right? That's this button, right? Center camera on champion. You bind this to whatever you're comfortable with. I have X, and every time I press X, my camera centers on Darius. And this is very, very, very good because this basically lets you like move your camera around to plan for things, to look at things, to get information, and then press X to center for the situations where that is more useful. Let's say you're fighting and it's a very, very important fight. You have no like time to like, move your screen. Press X, boom, easy. You have plenty of space, right? So the best setup is having free camera and having X binded to center. The rest of these are the F keys, right? For the F keys, I have set up like this, F1, F2, F3, F4. The game will do it a bit differently as default. The game will make it so it's F2, F3, F4, F5, which is awkward on most keyboards because F5 is like away from the other F keys. So set it up like I did here. And basically what the F keys do is it kind of locks your camera. Like, you know how this is locking your camera onto the Darius? The F keys lock your camera onto one of your allies, right? Now, how does this work? It basically goes like this, right? The guy at the top, it's like, goes from top to down, right? It's from top to down F1, F2, F3, and F4. And if you're like at the second spot or the third spot, it still counts the same way, right? If I'm the third spot, F1, F2, F3, F4, just go from the top to the bottom, right? So just order the champions like the way you want, and then press F1, F2, F3, F4 to look at your champions' screens, or your friends' screens, right? What this basically lets you do is it lets you gather some of the information that your friends already have, right? So you don't have to, you can very easily keep a tab on the other laners. Let's say your mid is getting pushed in, so you do like F2 or something, quickly look at mid lane, yep, the mid is coming, you want to look at bot lane, quickly look at bot lane, okay, and then bot is roaming. It's just very easy to get around the map without having to like drag the screen around here in the mini map, right? Because that's just like, instead of doing that, you could just be inputting commands and being clean as hell. All right, this is not really that useful. The only thing you need to know here is the toggle FPS display. What this is that it just shows how much FPS and ping you have. So to toggle this, it's Control F, and you will start out like this, but you have to press it once, and you get both of these things. And you can't really live without those things, so have them there. Stay alert. These communications are basically pings, right? So like this is mostly just like preference, basically, right? So you kind of have to just like play around with this and see what you like, see what you don't like, and like just try to understand that the default settings are okay, right? By default, it's control click for retreat, control right, on my way, danger, missing, and assist me, right? You can also do with holding alt and control. So the default settings are fine here. You don't have to mess around with this too much. Just the one thing that you need to input is the area is warded, right? What is this? This is this ping, right? And this basically tells you that it's warded. So let's say you're playing around here and your jungler wants to gank you and you know this is warded. You just ping like this and your jungler will know that that's warded and they'll go around or something, right? So that's a very, very good part of communication. I have that warded to N because it's like the most out of the way key for me, but yeah. These emotes don't really matter. These don't matter either. this doesn't really matter too much because like the default setting of tab is good enough, and this does not really matter that much at all. With the shop, the one other last thing that I can recommend is that, like, you can actually like pin these things so that the shop is like, always open for you. But I really hate the shape of the shop. Honestly, the old shop was way cleaner and better. This just looks like a horrible mess. But, I like to have everything available to me instead of just having to put my mouse here and then find what I'm looking for. So just pin everything there and you should be good to go. And this is your inventory, by the way. You interact with your inventory, sell things, move things around right here. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. We've covered every single setting in the game, and if you've watched this far, thank you very much. And I'll be making more and more Darius content in the future, so make sure to keep posted with the channel, subscribe, like, comment, give me feedback on what other guides you would want to see. I looked at the Know Your Enemy matchup series, and like I've basically like seen all the comments, and the top 3 matchups that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for is the Jax matchup, Fiora matchup, and the Irelia matchup. So whenever I get a good game with one of these 3 matchups, or a few good games with them, I'm going to make a Know Your Enemy on them. And Know Your Enemy is basically like, it's a video series where I show how you can beat certain champions with Darius, right? It's just a matchup analysis video. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. And I should have another new series coming up on the channel, but I'm still working on hard leveling an account for that, so it's going to take a while before those get on the channel. Anyway, that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys very much for the support. We just hit 3,000 subscribers, and yeah, I want to see you guys in the next video. Peace out.